Welcome everyone. This is one of our webinars from Santa Barbara County's America's Job Center of California. My name is Kathy Markov, and I am thrilled to be here today. We're going to talk about something that I think is really interesting, fun to talk about. I've always been interested in this topic. So career and life planning. You're going to learn some tools to make big life decisions and chart a plan of action to really live that life that you want to live. So I put this little chart on here because I love it, right? Our goal is to love your life first and foremost. We have to love our life and love our job. It is possible to just really love your job. And I know because I've loved my job and I've hated my job. So my purpose has always been to love my job. And I have been fortunate enough to be able to chart a path where I'm able to find myself in positions that I really love. And when I have not been so happy, to really, have the guts to move on and give yourself permission to do that, because we want you to love your life and love your job, but love your job and love your life. It's all possible. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both if you're conscious about what you want and you're willing to take some risks to get there. So I'm putting this up here. This is a quote by the Dalai Lama. And talking about loving your life, I have always loved to do stand-up training design, curriculum development. I have been on the faculty at 3 different universities doing that as a part-time instructor and working in fields where I've had training as a major part of my job responsibilities. But over and over in my career, and currently I'm in private practice as a training consultant. And one of my clients currently is the USAID. So I do United States Agency for International Development. And I do a lot of virtual training programs with people from all over the world. And as we get to know people, they share little fun facts about themselves. And one woman said that she met the Dalai Lama. And she asked the Dalai Lama, she got to ask him a question, and she said, "What is the purpose of life?" And this is exactly what the Dalai Lama said. Now, I'm sure, that is not exactly the words he said to her at that moment. I think he says this over and over again because he probably gets that question a lot. But what is the purpose of life? The Dalai Lama tells us the very purpose of our life is to seek happiness and to be happy. So this is important in the context of how you spend at least a third of your life at work. We need to seek happiness in our work. So this is another quote that I love. It says, "Never doubt what you can do, because you can do anything you set your mind to." And I want you all to think of a job that you would love to do, right? Do you know that somebody is doing that very likely right now? And that person will not be doing it forever. If you set your sights on it, you prepare yourself, and you're tenacious, you keep at it, you can achieve it, right? I told you I was working for USAID. I started my career as a Peace Corps volunteer in the South Pacific, and I really wanted to work in international development. I even lived in Washington, D.C. And then when I started having my children, I wanted to be closer to my family here in the Central Coast of California. So I moved back home to Santa Barbara to raise my kids. But I've always had that dream of working in international development. The pandemic hit, and I was contacted by a friend of mine from Washington, D.C. to see if I would be interested in being on a virtual USAID training team. Well, of course, that was exciting because it's going back to what my original vision of my career would be, working in international development. So on these training programs, as I said, we get to know people, and I learn about their different career paths and the jobs they've had, the education they've had. And I sat there, like a couple months ago listening to this, and I thought, wow, you know what? I have that kind of education. I have that kind of experience. why didn't I go after that? And I realized there was a confidence issue with me when I was younger. I didn't feel like I could do it. But I'm looking at all these people thinking, there's no difference between them and me. I could certainly work for USAID if I wanted to. And then I thought, if I work for USAID, what would I want to do? Would I want to do that person's job? No. That person's job? No. I thought, if I wanted to work for USAID, I would want to be a trainer for USAID. And then it hit me like, oh my goodness, you are a trainer for USAID. They contract all their trainers, and I am one of their training team. And I do like 10 different training programs a year. It's fantastic. I realized, I had a vision, an idea of what I wanted to do. And it took a long time, like 25 years, but along the way, I got more education, I got tons of experience. It's not like I didn't do other kinds of training in international development. I certainly did for different organizations, nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations. And then I landed kind of my vision and dream. So I'm telling you this, I don't want to be like, oh, the law of attraction, airy-fairy kind of stuff. I'm just saying that if you have a plan, you follow the plan, you'll be surprised how successful you can be. Because guess what? Most people don't have a plan. That's why it's easy to beat most people. How did I end up working for USAID? I had a network of people. I prepared myself. I was in the right place at the right time. I feel very grateful and fortunate. But is it just luck? I'd done a lot of preparation and put myself in the position for the opportunity to come to me. So this is what we're talking about. I'm going to give you some planning tools, and it's best if plans are on paper, but also, life happens. We'll talk about that too. It wasn't a straight line for me, but eventually I got into the business and the way that I want to do my business exactly as I went. I'm so happy in my career. So this is the thing I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to tell you another story. My son is going to San Diego State University as a girlfriend. Well, his girlfriend is very motivated. She's actually in a master's program to become a CPA. And she is working for Ernst & Young in San Diego as, an intern. And I asked her, well, Amy, what is it that you would like to be doing with your career? She loves baseball. And she said, what I'd really love? I would love to be the chief financial officer for the Padres. And she said, oh, but that's just a dream. I said, Amy, there's someone doing that right now. And I guarantee they're not going to be doing it forever. If you want to work for a professional baseball team and be their chief financial officer, certainly you can do it. You're doing all the things to prepare yourself. Give yourself time, put yourself in the right position, right? And these kind of things can happen because whatever it is you really want to do, probably someone's doing that already. And if you are clear on what you want and you follow that, you'd be surprised. You're going to end up where you want it. We're going to be happy. So I want to talk about something, quoting Oprah, our neighbor here in Santa Barbara, like living your best life. You can live your best life, but there are three components to this, really. And when I say your best life, of course, in this context, I'm merging your work life and your personal life. We're going to talk about that. First thing, you need to know yourself, right? What are your strengths in particular? And it's easy to sit and think, oh, wouldn't I love to do that? But, maybe you don't have the skill. I'd love to be like a rock star, like a singer, but I don't have the talent to do that, right? So know yourself. If I keep thinking, oh, I want to be a famous actress or whatever, well, I don't have the connections. I don't have the talent to do that. But I knew that I loved to do stand-up training, curriculum design, working on training teams, working with people. I knew that. And so every decision I made along my career path was putting myself in a situation where I got to work with people on training in one form or another. So it's important to understand yourself really well. We're going to talk about these 3 points in more detail. The next is to understand the labor market. And for those of you who've seen any of my other workshops, I talk about this a lot. Very important to understand the labor market and to ensure that the kind of things you want to do are really what's needed in the community that you live in. It's one of the reasons why many years ago, my husband and I decided to move to Washington, D.C. And here in Santa Barbara, there aren't a lot of international development agencies, but in Washington, D.C., there's tons of them. So you need to understand the labor market. Now, I had in here the local labor market, but things have changed with the pandemic and people using the internet more and more, but it still depends. Are you a customer-facing person? Then likely you're going to be more local in the way you look at the labor market. But if you're doing something like computer coding, you could probably get a job in Singapore or Paris or anywhere with those kind of skills. So understanding the labor market for what you want to be doing and where those kind of jobs exist is really, really important. You also need to understand the education and training opportunities that are available to you. And it doesn't matter where you are in your career path. I got a bachelor's degree. I started working as a training. I actually worked as a trainer for the US Peace Corps for 15 years. During that period, 10 years after my bachelor's degree, I went back and got a master's degree in human resource development and training. And guess what? More opportunities opened up for me. And then as I've gone through my career, periodically, every couple of years, I go to a certification class to add more credentials to what I'm doing. I played around with a PhD. I don't think that that's a path for me, but I certainly have worked to get certified from the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, also certified through the community college system in distance education, certified in a variety of different training techniques and methodologies. So we need to understand the educational training opportunities that are going to lead us to those kind of jobs that are really exciting for us. So let's walk through each one of these. You need to know yourself, okay? So let's go a little bit around the circle. What are you good at doing? I talked about that. What are your strengths? What do you value, right? And what do you want in life? This is really important. And we'll talk about this in a minute, but there are different kinds of things that we can do for different periods in our life. And this question in here, that all comes together. What does being wealthy mean to you? And this is an important thing to think about. I believe that wealth is not about having a lot of money, but it's about having a lot of options. Now, of course, there's a baseline of financial stability we need, particularly in this country. However, right, finding what does it mean? Is wealthy living in the place that you want to live? Is wealthy being surrounded by friends and family? I mean, this is really important. When we were living and working back east and I got pregnant, it was immediately we realized we want to be near our family, right? So that was for us, this feeling of wealth. I want it a little bit in quotes. It's not just about your assets, your net worth. It's about that feeling of really being happy and healthy and connected and with the people that you want to be with and in the place you want to be. So wealth is the ability to fully experience life. And it's one of the reasons why actually we left some really strong career opportunities. I mean, Washington, D.C., right? Tons of work experiences, higher level paying than we could get here. But our wealth was defined by being closer to family, being in California, near the ocean, in the mountains. So this is really important for us to think about, because you define what's important to you by what you dedicate your time to. And also, just even the first part of that statement, you define what's important to you. We get so many messages about, you need to have this kind of car and this kind of clothes and this kind of this and these kind of shoes and these kind of hats and whatnot. But these are messages from people who want to sell us things. But what's really important to you, right? and then put some energy and effort into that, right? We talk a lot about balancing family, your future, your career, and this is what your life becomes. But I can tell you that being conscious of the decisions that you make can make you really much more happy and satisfied in life. Years and years ago at Cuesta Community College, I was teaching a class a little bit like this, and it was looking at career and life planning decisions and that kind of thing. And there was a young woman in the class, and she became kind of upset about the things that we were talking about. And I asked her about it, and she said, well, I'm just thinking about everything I want to do in my life. And I don't know, she was maybe 22. I'm just a loser, you know, I have a job as a night attendant at a Best Western hotel or whatever hotel, you know, some little motel in Atascadero, California, and I'm not doing anything with my life. We said, oh, well, tell us more. She says, well, I'm the night clerk, and you see, I picked that because I have a toddler at home. And I wanted to be around for my toddler and be able to take classes during the day. And we said, oh, well, when do you sleep? She said, well, they let me sleep. They let you sleep, pay you to sleep. Yeah, I go in, I'm there for 8 hours, and I have a little bedroom. I can sleep. I just have to wake up if someone rings the bell. I said, well, how often does that happen? She said, well, I go in about 11 and I'm done at 7. I don't know, once or twice a night, not that big of a deal. I can also do my homework. I said, you can do your homework there? Yeah. So, well, where's your 2-year-old? She says, well, I live with my parents, and my parents take care of my daughter at night and when I'm at school. And all of us kind of sat there like, oh, so you're working on your degree, you have a baby, you live with your parents who take care of the child for free, you have a job where you get to sleep at night and do your homework. We all said, wow, that sounds fantastic for this time in your life. You know, what are your dreams? And she had big dreams. She was in the nursing program, or taking the prerequisites for the nursing program. She wanted to become a nurse. I mean, she had a great, bright future. And at that moment, having that job where she got to sleep and do her homework, and her parents taking care of, you know, she felt bad about living in her parents' house. It just seemed like the ideal situation. It allowed her to work on herself, to invest in herself, and find that kind of balance and focus on her career and her future. So, you know, we need to sometimes make sacrifices and do the things it takes to make it all work out. And I'll talk about that a little bit more, because work-life balance, or integration, as you can read from this cartoon, doesn't mean that you have it all the time, but that you're conscious of what you're doing at this time in your life, and how are you deciding what's important to you and creating the happiness in your life. So, of course, this is a Dilbert, and it says, we're no longer using the term work-life balance because it implies that your life is important. Now we call it work-life integration, so it's easier to make you work when you would prefer being with loved ones. And I'd like to give a big thanks to all of those who never had a life. So, you know, this idea of work-life balance, work-life integration, we need to remember that we're in charge here. We need to take charge of our life and make sure that we are finding that balance. You know, if you're happy at work, you can be happy at home. And likewise, when you're happier at home, you're happy at work. So setting some limits, being able to be conscious of that. And I want to say that our priorities change over our lifetime. So this is a graphic representation of what I'm going to talk about. So there's your work life, your relationships, yourself. Now, relationships could be your family, your friends. So let's look at this a little bit as we move through our career, our life. So here is kind of a typical thing for, you know, college age kids, people who are preparing to start their career. Their work may not be that important. This is like my son. He's in school to become an engineer, but you know, it's not that his biggest focus. He's more into what's going on with him, what's going on with his friends, and that's the time of life. But once people start in their career, right, the work piece takes over. and yourself and your relationships aren't quite as prominent or important in your life. Now add a family, and all of a sudden, look, yourself, I know that happened to me, got really quite small. My work, I prioritize my relationships with my kids and my husband over my work. And early in my career, I had the opportunity, as I said, to be an independent training consultant and a college instructor. So I said I'm a part-time college instructor and mostly a mommy, right? For my kids were little. That was what was important to me. Now, I'm not saying that you need to make those same decisions, but it's something to think about, because as we move through our life, our priorities change. Here's a quote that I like. It says, "I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in integration. Being able to spend a Thursday afternoon with my kids was part of my business plan." So I have a girlfriend in Washington, D.C., and she's had high-level jobs with big consulting firms, with the World Bank, all sorts of interesting job opportunities that she's had. But when she had her daughter, she went to part-time. She worked 20 hours a week and was really strict about that, right? 20 hours a week, because she wanted to be there more for her child. Men can make those same kind of decisions. I know I had a pretty big, well-paying job when my kids were little, and my husband decided he wanted to always be a personal trainer. So he began to be a personal trainer where he would start work at 5 in the morning and be done by 2:30, 3 o'clock. So he could pick up the kids, take them to their sports, coach their sports teams. We as a couple made some decisions about what was important for us to find the balance that worked for us. So give yourself permission to think about that. These people, retired people, like, work is very minuscule. It kind of goes back when we were younger, yourself, your relationships. And then when we're in our last years, right, it really kind of becomes all about you. You need help. You need some, assistance with things. You may have some aches and pains. Work is almost not existent at all. And your relationships are there really to help you. So I think it's something to think about, because happiness is not about a trophy or the finish line. It's a journey. And if you enjoy your journey, you can enjoy your life. And of course, that's by the guy that had that song, Happy. Woo, I love that song. But it's something really that we need to give ourselves permission to know that at different times in our life, we may prioritize different things, and to be conscious of that, and to make sure that our personal life and our work life are really supporting one another so that we can find happiness. Okay, so that's getting to know yourself a little bit. Now let's look at the labor market, the state of the labor market. And this is something I mention in many of my workshops. You need to understand the labor market. Know that it really should be a continual interest, because it changes over time. Gone are the days when you get a job and stick with it for 30 years. I mean, I'm not going to say there aren't people who do that. I do know people who do that. But sometimes I've noticed that, they get very complacent in their work. And some people have told me, it's not the most exciting thing. Some people are lucky. They get into a job, they stick with it forever, and they just love it. But we live in a country and in a time when we can reinvent ourselves. And so, what is important to think about, how can you have a thriving career? Right? You need to find options to continually grow, develop, and unfold, to just, find that state of happiness where your personal life and your career are supporting one another. So labor market information, and there are other workshops on the Santa Barbara County Workforce Development Board YouTube channel that talk about the labor market by people who are much better at addressing it than I am. The Employment Development Department has a wonderful site, and it is well worth your time to get a sense of what jobs are out there. Also, the Santa Barbara Workforce Development Board has reports that are available on their website that talk about the different tiers of income, from low income to high income, and what kind of professions are in there. So you need to get a sense of that. Also, a lot of times we consider changing career, and actually during this pandemic, it's been a time when many people are considering that perhaps they want to change their career. So this was a survey that was done just actually, very recently. It was called a Flex Job Survey, and it talked about why people are considering a job change. 68% of people are, and they're looking for better work-life balance, higher pay, of course, more meaningful career, to expand their professional skills, and that they find in their job there aren't any advancement opportunities. Well, these are all things that you deserve to think about in terms of, how do you find that satisfying career? And of these things, what is really important? Some people think that advancement opportunities are more important than pay. Some people think that professional skills development is more important than pay. But pay is obviously important, particularly here where we live. But at any time, you can reinvent yourself. It may take an investment in training and education, but you might be looking at something that's going to take you 3 years to get done, but what will happen in the process of that journey? How many people will you meet? What new things will you learn? And at the end of that, what opportunities will be there for the rest of your life? So these are some of the things to be thinking about in terms of preparing and planning our career. I want to make a distinction here between occupation and industry. So I want to look at two occupations, a chef and an accountant, right? So these are occupations, actual jobs. I'm a trainer, right? Some people are salespeople. There's different occupations, but that is not the same as the industry. So let's look at some industries. So let's think about the hospitality industry. Well, obviously it needs chefs. And guess what? There are accountants that work in the hospitality industry. The wine industry, I have a lot of wineries who are clients, and the larger ones are hiring chefs, and they all have accountants. Let's look at the health industry. Well, think about a hospital or a advanced care facility. They have chefs, they have food programs. I've been hired to come in and work with the nutrition and food service divisions of a very large health, assisted care facilities. They have like 15 assisted care facilities. They have 15 chefs, right? The health industry, the fitness industry. How many chefs are trying to make healthy food? And all these people need accountants to track the money. Sports industry, education industry, right? You could be making meals in the school system. Like UCSB at the elementary schools, they all need accountants too. What about government, nonprofit sector? So it's really important, I think. You may have a love of doing something. You love to cook. So you're going to go to culinary school to become a chef. But then what industry would you like to be in? And this is where you really can find your happiness, right? People think, oh, I become a chef and I work in a restaurant. Well, not necessarily. My husband is trained as a chef from the Culinary Institute of America in New York. He did not want to work in a restaurant. The thing that's not here is self-employment. So he didn't like the stress of a restaurant environment. So he started a catering company. He became self-employed. So again, looking at these industries, the question is, what industry do you want to apply your occupation to, right? And also think about occupations. Is there a career path? A bookkeeper can become an accountant, can become a CPA, can become a CFO, right? A phlebotomist can become a nursing assistant, can become a nurse, could even become a doctor or a nurse practitioner. So thinking about that is also important. And again, let's go back to this, whether you want to be self-employed or an employee. Now, they're two different things. Now, I love being self-employed. I was okay being an employee, but I realized after having many jobs, that went really well. I mean, I was promoted up into the vice president level of a nonprofit organization, but I like being self-employed because the work I do, and this is one of the things I know about myself, I like a clear beginning, middle, and end. I love project work. So for me, getting into even an executive position, I felt like I sit all day just approving vacation, signing checks, just doing a whole bunch of things that really, truly were not satisfying to me. Again, I like a clear beginning, middle, and end. Now, I was a college instructor for business education programs at these three universities. I was always in the business program. And people would always, I'd say, why are you in the business program? Because I want to have my own business. Well, guess what? You don't need a business degree to be a business owner. It helps if you have some education in how to run a business. But really, I've seen the really successful entrepreneurs, they're in a specific occupation within an industry. So they may have graduated with a degree in engineering, and now they have designed a special process and they branch out on their own to have a business related to that. And I've seen some big businesses grow out of that. And they're smart enough to bring other people like a CPA in to help them run the business side and a human resource development person to help them run the business, right? So I've seen nurses come up with a new process or procedure or want to train people in a specific thing and start a business in the health industry. And being a nurse gives them credibility. So you don't need a business degree to be a business owner. In fact, sometimes it's better to have some kind of specialty, right? That you can bring something to an occupation or an industry. So the whole thing about business is that you have a good idea, you find a need and you fill it. It's not for everyone. So this is important. Our society kind of tells us, oh, everybody has to have their own business. Well, I can tell you, it's not for everyone. But it can be very satisfying for those who love to take some risk, a calculated risk, and to be in charge of their own destiny. But I can tell you as a small entrepreneur, a solopreneur, there are times when I have great work and I'm working really hard, and other times where I get scared, like, what's going to happen? I've been lucky. Things have always turned around for me. But this is important to think about. The point of all this is that you have more career choices than you realize. The important thing is to, discover things about yourself, about the labor market, to prepare yourself, to set a plan in motion, and all of this is about determining your interests. So it kind of goes around in a cycle. So you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So you need to really spend some time doing the self-reflection, learning about the labor market, making sure you are investing and preparing yourself. And guess what? You're not alone. Get some help. And there's free help out there. This is really important. Of course, the sponsor of this workshop is America's Job Center or the Santa Barbara Workforce Development Board. But there's also the Department of Social Services, the Employment Development Department, and again, America's Job Center, California. So, you don't need to pay a bunch of people to help you figure this out. There are also wonderful tools on the internet through the federal career system. So I tell you again, you're not alone in this, and it's always wonderful to have some feedback from people in terms of determining some of your strengths and some areas within the labor market that you could fit to have a career that will satisfy your needs for your living and putting a roof over your head. But more than that, the opportunity to really find the what's important to you in your life to be able to live that. So what are we talking about? We're talking about decision making. So again, we've kind of talked about that, identifying and choosing what are some choices here. So you need to have some choices, things that surface to the top and other things that you weed out and say, no, I'm not doing that. Or, I used to be a waitress in college. I don't want to do that anymore. So it's fine to decide what you don't want to do because it's narrowing down what it is you do want to do. But it's really trying to solve a problem. And the problem is the difference between where you are and where you want to be. And life is always this idea of, I'm here, where do I want to be? So the problem is that gap, and we need to identify it and then come up with some problem-solving ways to really make a plan of action. So we're going to talk about some of those problem-solving tools, but I love this quote. It says, life is a series of problem-solving opportunities. The problems you face will either defeat you or develop you, depending on how you respond to them. And I will tell you that 2019 was one of the best years for my business. It far exceeded any of my expectations ever. And then the pandemic hit, and I thought, oh no, now I got a problem. But during that period, I was determined that I was going to continue to stay in business. And that is the year of certifications for me. I told you, been interested in that. But I got 3 certifications in 2019. And it wasn't long before, I connected with things like USAID and some other international opportunities. It presented itself a lot of opportunities for me. So life is always going to present problems. It's not having problems, it's what you do with them. And this may seem a little contradictory to what I'm talking about, but I do love this quote. Dwight D. Eisenhower said, plans are useless, but planning is essential. So I do a lot of strategic planning with small nonprofit organizations. And it's really interesting because, in fact, I'm doing one on Saturday. And the planners, they're really into all the details. They want to know well, we don't know what's going to happen, right? This is why we have this retreat for planning. And, they want this pristine plan. I have never seen a strategic plan that gets executed exactly the way it was supposed to be, because guess what? Once we get out there to execute our plan, it's like a snapshot. Things change, right? We need to be able to pivot and morph and be open to the opportunities that happen there. But one thing I can tell you, the planning process helps us get focused, get clear what we want, what we need. And all plans should really be on paper, even if it's just a little sticky note, right? I put a lot of things on little sticky notes and then put them around the place. It doesn't have to be this elaborate plan. It can be, it depends on what really motivates you. But the process of planning is absolutely essential for us to get clarity on where we are and where we'd like to be. So let's look at the planning process a little bit. So I put this together. There's a lot of things to say at each level, but let's kind of walk through it. The first thing I want to look at is you need to define the problem. It starts by, what are the lessons from the past? What do I know that I like to do, that people say I'm good at? What do I know I don't like to do, that I know I don't want to do? When has it been that I felt like I had a work-life balance? Maybe I don't want to work 40 hours a week, or maybe I don't want to work for an organization that is going to expect me to do a lot of weekends or evenings, or maybe I do want to work on the weekend because I have a spouse who, is there or whatever, right? Uncover some of your assumptions, right? Who else is involved here? What do they think? My husband and I had very conscious conversations when the kids were in school and in sports about how we're going to manage that, because we wanted to be actively involved. And he worked starting at 5 a.m. I was the one to get the kids up, get everything packed, get them breakfast, get them to school. Then I went to work. And I could stay to work until I usually got in around 8:39. I could stay till 5:36 because my husband had ended work at 2:33, pick them up, take them to soccer, take them to water polo, football, all the things that they wanted to do. And I knew nobody'd be home until about 6:37. So there was a conscious thing, but we had to uncover some assumptions, right? Assumptions that I'm the one to drive them around after school. Well, my husband wanted to coach, so he wanted to be there. I mean, it worked out really well, but we were conscious of it. That's what I want to say. We had conversations about it. The next thing is you want to develop a vision, right? What is the best outcome? You need to develop some options. You need to decide on some solutions, right? So what is the option that we're going to go for? We're going to start with and develop some strategies for implementing it. What preparation do you need? How long will it take? What resources do you need to make this happen? Yeah, this may take some money, some time, some assistance. When my husband made his switch to being a personal trainer, yes, he was a chef, then he was a personal trainer. He's done a lot of different things. It took about 6 months for him to get certified as a personal trainer and then to go through the process of getting hired by a gym, all of that. So we had to, we lived pretty tight during those 6 months before he started bringing in an income. And his income didn't come right away. Right? So what kind of money, what kind of time, do you need some kind of assistance with childcare, with even finances? What do you need in order to make that happen? And then you need to go out and do it. But part of doing it is really monitoring or checking your progress and celebrating, right? You want to be happy and proud of your accomplishments. And know that the planning process is kind of continual. It doesn't mean that that's it. So I've got a few more techniques. How do you decide? How do you go through this process of figuring out what you want? I'm going to do this kind of quickly. Brainstorming, right? This is non-judgmental, just getting out all sorts of ideas. This is a great way to do it. It's great if you bring somebody in that loves and cares about you. And the topic is, what's my next career move? And put all the ideas out there. And then you might even see that some of them morph together and you come up with some great ideas. Positive imagery. It was Stephen Covey who said, begin with the end in mind. Envision yourself doing the kind of job that you want to do. I envision myself many times up in front of a group with a whiteboard and markers. I've envisioned myself doing this kind of training virtually. So these kind of positive imagery can help really build the motivation in you to make it happen. A force field analysis, that's kind of a fancy word for pros and cons. So you kind of narrow it down. You say, okay, I want to be in the medical field. Well, what are the pros and cons? Maybe one of the cons could be a lot of training, but one of the pros, if you invest in that, you could have, you become a nurse, hey, you're going to be employed all of your life. So this kind of pros and cons. A SWOT analysis. This is a real tried and true. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Make lists of all those things of moving into this career, then start to mix and match those things and develop some kind of strategy. And then I want to share with you something that I love. There's a guy, I think he's a Spaniard, and his name is Edward de Bono. And many years ago, he wrote about the 6 thinking hats. Let's take a look at this a little bit more. What he said is that any kind of problem you want to solve, you need to look at it through different lenses. He called them hats. And you do it in this succession. Now, you can look this up on the internet and get more information. But you first start with the white hat, and that's information, figures, facts. Like, what are the facts of the situation? When you've got all the facts down, uninterpreted, just facts. I live in Santa Barbara. It's expensive to live here. I need to get a household job. Okay, those are facts. Then what's your intuition and your emotions about going into this profession, going in the medical field? Well, honestly, I feel a little nervous about it. I don't know how to deal with the blood, but also I'm kind of excited because it feels like the right thing to do. Okay, that's all your emotions. Then once you get all those out on a piece of paper, then you move into the black hat. And this is really the hat that's trying to protect you. So, what, what if something happens while I'm in school and I can't finish the schooling? Or, this is like putting that all out there. Now, at each level, like let's say your intuition, your emotions say, then stop doing this exercise. Or let's say the black hat tells you, oh, don't do that, and stop. But if you're still with it at this point, keep going. What are all the logical, positive things that could happen? Oh, yay. Like, I'd have a profession for life, and people would be proud of me for going to medical school. And, I could even take more education. Maybe I start as a phlebotomist, but then I could move into something else, right? Then the creative or alternative hat. Now, I love this green hat, because this is where really the magic of this first part of the process of kind of looking at your options and defining them. What could happen if you went on this course of action? What other things could come about that? I could become a nurse, and then I could start a business training nurses, because I know that it's hard for people to get enough education, professional development in that field. I don't know what it would be, but, creative alternatives. If I become a nurse, maybe I could become like a private nurse to the stars in Montecito. I don't know, but something really creative and out of the box. And if you're still with this process up until this point, then you go into the planning mode, where the blue hat is where you lay out a plan of action. So I want to I'll give you a little note on the green hat a little bit. I show you this picture of an apple tree. So if I asked you to count the number of apples on the tree, you could sit here and it would be easy to count them, oh, there's 25 apples on the tree, right? But some problems require immersion into it before the solution can be found. So the 6 hat method is designed to help you get inside the problem. And here's another analogy for that, right? Another question. How many trees are within each apple, right? You won't know unless you open up the apple and see how many seeds are in there. So I say this because it's important to understand that some kind of problems, even some kind of careers, sometimes you won't know until you get into it. If you have the opportunity, can you take like an entry level, lower level position in some kind of an industry to get a feel for it? So you're interested in going to culinary school, get a job as a waiter, just, even for a few months, just to see what it's like. Sometimes you have to get into the problem before you really understand. And if you decide that it's not what you want, well, it's okay, but you deserve to figure that out before you get in there. I can't tell you how many friends I have who went straight out of bachelor's degree into some professions like law. And now they're lawyers, they have big incomes, big houses, fancy cars, and they're miserably unhappy. Not all, I know some happy attorneys, but I have friends who just hate it, but now they're kind of stuck, right? They should have worked in a law firm, figured that out before they jumped into it. But their parents wanted them to become an attorney, or society told them they wanted to. You deserve the time to go through this process of career exploration. And sometimes it takes getting a job in the field, in the industry, in the occupation to kind of get a sense of it, even at a lower level, to see if you want to move up. So let's talk about this. How do you formulate an action plan? Now, there are a lot of ways to do this, but a very simple, straightforward way, and one that I really like, is this. You ask yourself a couple of questions. In order to reach your life and career dreams, what do you need to keep doing? What do you need to stop doing? And what you need to start doing? This is really, truly important. What you need to keep doing, what you need to stop doing, what you need to start doing. Simple questions you can ask yourself periodically to be able to make sure you're moving towards that goal. I love this. It says, success is the residual of planning. This was Benjamin Franklin. So, planning will help you lead to your success. Now, let me cover real quickly some traps to avoid when making decisions and making a plan. First of all, don't make all decisions big decisions. There was a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, right? Not every decision is a big one. So you go into school and 6 months in, you decide you don't like it, then get out of it, right? Creating a crisis situation. Not everything is a crisis. Failing to consult others, those who love you, right? They can give you some really good feedback. Oh, I don't know. I don't see you as a nurse. You're really good with numbers. Why don't you go into something with numbers? I don't know what they would tell you, but involve other people. Sometimes we're embarrassed when we're unemployed, but I can tell you, I've seen this happen many times. People get out there and tell people, even on Facebook, hey, I lost my job. I'm unemployed. I need another job. Remember, most jobs are in the hidden job market. So get out there and consult with others and get some feedback from others. We all make mistakes. So don't be one of those people who never makes a mistake. You start something, you don't like it, you can always change. We're so lucky we have the opportunity in this country to be that way. So you make a mistake, big deal. Don't regret it. This will just put a negative spin on everything. Follow the rules. Don't lie that you have a master's degree when you don't. Follow precedents and policies. We've talked a lot about this, gather all the facts and data. You can't be like, oh, well, I've heard this is great, and that's it, I'm just going for it without exploring it. Take the time to explore it. Don't promise what can't be delivered, right? Under promise and over deliver. And don't delay your decision too late. Now is the time to do it. The final trap is the escalation of commitment. This is where you're in a job, you've been there for a while, you've even been successful, but you hate it. Don't just keep at it, right? Get out. This is why people are thinking about changing jobs. The question to ask yourself is what you're doing today getting you closer to where you want to be tomorrow? So I want to kind of summarize and pull all this together by looking at these strategies to decide what you want in life and your career. First, you need to figure out what you want. What are you good at? What do you think is kind of fun and challenging? What are you interested in enough that will hold your attention for the span of a career? I always have said, I've got a lot more training inside me, meaning that I'm not done with this. I love what I get to do. And I've loved what I get to do for 25 years. I think I'm unique in that way, and I've applied it to different industries, and I still love it. Find what makes you tick and go for it. And then when it doesn't make you tick anymore, move on. Find a career that fits your life. Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be close to? What kind of hours do you want? What kind of responsibility do you want? I've done a lot of recruiting for executive director positions for nonprofit agencies. And sometimes I call people that I know and say, hey, would you be interested in this job? And some people have told me, you know what, I am the vice president of operations, and I don't want to take on the role of an executive director. I don't want to have to deal with a board. This is a good thing to know about yourself. So find a career that fits your life. Explore your options. This is a lot of what we've talked about. Do career exploration. And remember, you're not alone, right? Use the resources that are available to you and prepare yourself. You are worth the investment of an education. And what I say to people, when we invest in our professional growth and development, nobody can ever take that away from you. And I make this point when I get hired by private clients. They bring me in to do professional development with their leaders. I say, your employer is doing this to retain your talent, but I want to give you a personal motivation for being here. You learn what we're going to be going over in this class, no one can take that away from you. If you learn to improve your communication, to improve the way you delegate, to improve the way you provide performance improvement information, to improve the way you engage people, no one can take it away from you. So investing in your own personal growth and development, whether through formal education or informal education, hopefully getting certifications along the way, you can never regret it. And then pursue your dream with enthusiasm. Get excited. I mean, this is the whole thing about being happy and having a great life. I love what I get to do. I'm enthusiastic. Some people say I'm enthusiastic. Oh, well, I love what I get to do. I'm so lucky. But it didn't come by mistake. You know, I had one young employee of mine kind of lament and oh, look at you, you're doing this and you have that. Hey, I'm 20 years ahead of you on the journey of life, and I have done things to prepare myself to be in this position. So this is what's important. Your life is a blending of choices that you make to improve your life, improve how you make your choices. Take the time for conscious decisions based on good values, long-term results, loving motives, and staying true to your heart. So that's really what I was trying to get at here. And just to say that hard work puts you where the good luck can find you. And when I say hard work, you know, it doesn't have to be hard like you hate it. It's just, I work hard, but I love it. That's what you want to find. And it's through this process of making this decision and starts with getting to know you very well and what's possible, and then developing that plan. And that includes your professional development. So with that, I see there's a message from Janie. Thank you so much. I love having you in the class, Janie, and I know Takako, you're there, and that's great too. I hope this has been helpful. I love having you join us. And please, everyone, come back to the YouTube channel. We're doing 1 or 2 a week. There's lots of great information from a variety of sources. And please stay in touch with America's Job Center of California, and it will connect you also to EDD and the Department of Social Services for some really experts, people who actually have found their thing and love their field, who are there to help you navigate this. We also have a Survey Monkey as an evaluation of this training program that we welcome you to. And it's been my pleasure. My name's Kathy Markov. I'm going to stop the recording. And those of you that are live, you can stay on. We can open it up if you want to talk. But it's been my pleasure. Good luck, and really find happiness in your work and your life. Good luck to you.